Good morning, children. Stay safely at home. So I am starting the next chapter, center of mass. Alright. Now what is center of mass? Center of mass means if you consider an extended object, then the point at which we assume that the entire mass of the body is being concentrated is known as the center of mass. Alright. Means if you consider the extended object, it consists of several point masses. Alright. Now point masses, their positions are at different points. So you know that in physics, whenever any law is applied, then that is applicable for the point mass. But for extended object, the problem is that it consists of several point masses. So that's why what we do, we assume that instead of the entire mass distributed over a region, we consider as if it is concentrated at one point. So that point is known as the center of mass. Alright. So first of all, we are trying to find out the center of mass of a two particle system. Just you consider here. Let us consider that the system is having two particles at the point A and at the point B, and the two particles are having masses m1 and m2. Alright. Now the position vector of the particle at A is r1, whereas the position vector of the particle m2 at B is r2. Then the center of mass will be situated on the line joining the two particles, and let us consider if this is the position of the center of mass, whose position vector is given by RCM, then RCM is given by m1 r1, m1 into r1 plus m2 into r2 divided by the total mass. Alright. Now how we are getting this? That we can do by simple formulae. Alright. Now if I consider that on the first particle, the net force acting is F1. F1 is the external force, whereas F12, you see here I have written F12, means F12 is an internal force. Force on particle 1 exerted by particle 2 is F12. So this is the net force acting on particle 1. So according to Newton's second law of motion, you know that net force acting on a particle is equal to rate of change of linear momentum. So you can write rate of change of momentum is d dt and momentum is m1 v1. So d dt of m1 v1. Exactly in the same manner for the particle m2. F2 is the external force acting and F21 is the internal force exerted by 1 on 2. That's why the name is F21 is equal to rate of change of linear momentum of the second particle. So it is d dt of m2 v2. What is the momentum of the second particle? Mass into velocity. So m2 into v2. Now if you add these two equations, then you see F12 and F21, they will cancel each other. Alright. Why? Because you know, according to Newton's third law of motion, F12 is equal. Action and reaction, they are equal in magnitude, opposite in direction. So you see, you can write F12 equal to minus F21. So you see what is happening? F12 plus F21. From this one, what are you getting? F12 plus F21 is equal to 0, because internal forces, they cancel each other. So what you are getting, you see, on the left hand side you are getting F1 plus F2, and on the right hand side you are getting M1 V1 plus M2 V2. Is that clear? Now you see, F1 plus F2 is nothing but the total external force. Alright. So you see, you can write it as d dt of M1 V1 and V1 M1 V1 plus M2 V2. Is that clear? Now this one again you can write as F external as d dt of M1, and V1 you can write dr1 dt, and V2 you can write dr2 dt. Is that clear? So you see, you can take it again outside the integration. So you can write it as d2 dt square double derivative of m1 r1 plus M2 R2. This is the mathematical formula only we are writing. So you see, you have got external force is equal to d2 dt square. This is a double derivative of M1 R1 plus M2 into R2. This is M2 into R2. I am verbally saying, it is not clear on the whiteboard. It is M2 R2. Alright. So you see, we have got F external is equal to d2 dt square M1 R1 plus M2 R2. Now you can do this, that you multiply it with M1 M2 and divide it with M1 plus M2. So it is, so you see these two are cancelling, so you are getting back the same thing, so we can do. Now you see, if I do this, then M1 plus M2 is nothing but the total mass of the system. So you can write it as M, and then it is becoming d2 dt square. If I consider this entire thing as RCM, alright, RCM is which point where the total mass is being concentrated. Means now what we are doing, we are considering as if this M1, M2 are not there and the entire mass is being concentrated. Just understand it. This is the situation now, that these two particles are not there, only one mass, total mass is at one point, and this is RCM. Then what will happen? F external is equal to total mass into d2 square d2 dt square of RCM. RCM is what? The position vector of the point where the entire mass assumed to be concentrated. So according to this relation, what one is getting, that RCM is equal to M1 R1 plus M2 R2 divided by, either you can write M1 plus M2 or you can write it as the total mass M, big M. Alright. Now, if instead of two particle system, if there is a n particle system, then how to write? For n particle system, you see, this one will be M1 R1 plus M2 R2, so on M and Rn last. Is that clear? So you can write in that case RCM is equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n mi Ri divided by sigma I equal to 1 to n mi. Is that clear? And I hope everybody knows how to expand it. First of all, you will consider I equal to 1. So it will become M1 R1. Then sigma means sum. So it will become plus. Then I equal to 2. So M2 R2. Then plus. Then I equal to 3. So it will become M3 R3. So on. Means if you expand it, it will look like this. M1 R1. Okay. I forgot to give the sign. M1 R1 plus M2 R2, so on. What will be the last term? Mn Rn. Like that, below if you sigma I equal to I is equal to 1 to n mi, if you expand it, what it will be? M1 plus M2, then Mn. Alright, so this relation mathematically one can simplified way one can write this sigma I equal to 1 to n mi Ri. So this is the most important one. Alright, because the derivative you may forget, but you are not allowed to forget this, and this chapter is a very small chapter. Few formulae are there and you have to remember. So RCM is how much? M1 R1 plus M2 R2 by M1 plus M2. If you write down only the magnitude, then don't give the vector sign, and if you write in vector form, then give the vector above all position vectors. Alright. So these are the expressions for RCM. Now if the position vector is in the three-dimensional system, then you see, you can write XCM. Alright. You know that if the position vector, it is a three-dimensional, then it should have x, y, z coordinate. Alright. So in that case, XCM will be sigma mi xi by sigma mi. It is understood, I equal to 1 to n. And then what will be YCM? YCM will be sigma mi yi by sigma mi, and ZCM will be sigma mi zi divided by sigma mi. Alright, if it is having, the position vector is having only 2 coordinate, then only x and y you have to write. If it is having three-dimensional system in space, the particle is, then it will have 3 coordinate, and the 3 coordinate of the position vector of the center of mass you can obtain from this. So these are the another relations you are supposed to remember and learn and practice for solving the numericals. Alright. So you see, if you consider this is the position vector, then what will be the velocity of the center of mass? Then you see, velocity of the center of mass, it will be ddt of rcm. Alright, so you see, one can write ddt of rcm means ddt of rcm is how much? m1 r1 plus m2 r2 divided by m1 plus m2. Alright, so in this case, what you can write? You can write like this, that it will be m1 dr1 dt plus m2 dr2 dt divided by m1 plus m2. Alright, so you can write it simply m1 v1 plus m2 v2 divided by m1 plus m2. Alright, so what is the velocity of the center of mass? This is the formula for the velocity of the center of mass, that m1 v1 plus m2 v2 divided by m1 plus m2. The next one, what will be the acceleration of the center of mass? Simply it will be ddt of velocity of center of mass. So if you just substitute the expression for VCM, you can write it as m1 v1 plus m2 v2 divided by m1 plus m2. So 1 plus m1 plus m2 is 1 by m, or you can write m1 plus m2, that does not matter. And then you can write this one as m1 dv1 dt plus m2 dv2 dt. Alright, now dv1 dt is nothing but the acceleration of the first particle a1, then dv2 dt is nothing but the acceleration of the second particle. So you see, what is the acceleration of the center of mass? It is 1 by m into m1 a1 plus m2 a2. Alright, now you know that external force acting on the system, you can write, total mass of the system into acceleration of the center of mass. So you see, you can write it as m into acceleration of center of mass is what? 1 by m, then m1 a1 plus m2 a2. So mm cancel, so you are getting it as m1 a1 plus m2 a2. Alright, so these are the basic physics behind the concept of center of mass. Alright, only thing is that the formulae you are bound to remember to solve the numerical. Now here, when we have considered all the formulae of the center of mass, then the 2 particle system or n particle system we have considered, that was not a continuous distribution. There is a gap between the successive particle, isn't it? But if the distribution is continuous, means there is distribution continuous means what? Suppose you have taken a rod, suppose you have taken a plate, suppose you have taken a sphere. Alright, so there you see, in between 2 particles there is no gap, so that is the continuous distribution. So in case of continuous distribution, RCM is given by 1 upon m integration r dm. Alright, it will be integration r dm. Here vector sign I am not giving. If you give the vector sign, then both you have to give. Alright, and in that case, what will be the xcm? It will be 1 by m integration x dm. Means m1 x1, in place of m, you have to write integration dm. Alright, like that, ycm, it will be 1 by m integration y dm. Then like that, ZCM will be 1 by m integration Z dm. Alright, now we will find out center of mass of a uniform rod. by applying this concept. Okay, we want to find out the center of mass of a uniform rod. So let us consider AB is the rod. Alright, so you see we have considered that the point A is at the origin of the coordinate system. So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. And we have considered total mass of the rod be big M and total length of the rod be small l. Alright, so you see what will be mass per unit length? It will be a total mass by total length. Is that clear? Now, if you want to find out what is the position of the center of mass, then what we have taken, you see, we have taken a very small length CD. CD we denote it by dx. Okay, in calculus, whenever we write down dx means d into x, no, that is not the meaning. Dx means small length dx. Alright, anything which is very small, infinitesimally small, we denote it by the term dx, dl. Okay, dm, m stands for mass. So when I am writing small d, small m, what does it mean? It is a very small mass. Alright. So you see here, so if you consider a very small length dx at a distance x from the origin, look at it. We have taken an elementary length dx. Dx is very small at a distance of x from the origin. Now, what is the mass of this portion CD? It will be mass per unit length into the length of the region. So, you can write m by L into dx. Now, why I have written is dm? Because as we have chosen this portion is very small, so its mass is also very small. So, that's why we have written it dm. We have not written only m. I hope girls you are understanding it, following it. The moment you are writing, you are adding small d with it, it means that we are not multiplying d into m. dm together, this is the symbol to represent a very small mass, elementary mass. Okay. So what is the elementary mass of or the mass of the elementary length CD chosen? It is given by dm equal to m by L dx. So you see, in this case, as it is a one-dimensional one, because it is situated along x-axis, so y coordinate it is 0. So you can write what will be xcm integration xdm by integration dm. So if I substitute dm, dm is how much? M by L dx. Now look at x. What is the lowest value of x? 0. What is the highest value of x? L. What is the total length? L. So you see, you have to integrate it from 0 to L. And integration dm is nothing but the total mass. Integration means summation. So integration dm means you are adding all the elementary masses. So if you add all the elementary masses, what you will get? You will get the entire mass of the system, entire mass of the rod here. So you can write it as m. So you see what are you getting? You can take m outside. Okay, it is, you can take it, sorry, here x I forgot to write. So it will be m by L x dx. So you see what you can do in the numerator, m by L you can take outside, then integration x dx is x square by 2, and then you have to put the limit 0 to L. So you see what is happening here, getting cancelled, it is coming 1 by L, and in x square by 2, when we will put the limit, it will come L square by 2 minus 0. So on simplification, what are you getting? 1 by L into L square by 2, it means L by 2. So where the center of mass situated? It is situated at the midpoint of the uniform rod. Alright. So this is the way one can find out what is the position of the center of mass by utilizing all these formulae discussed. Now the topic I am going to discuss, very important, that's why I put here asterisk, double asterisk, means this is very important. Now if you consider an isolated system where no external force is acting, means F external is 0, then you see F external 0 means when no force acts according to Newton's second law, the acceleration will also be 0. Now you know acceleration is equal to dvcm by dt. Okay, ddt of VCM. So acceleration 0 means dVCM dt equal to 0. So what does it mean? Velocity of the center of mass will be constant. This is the most important one. When external force acting on an isolated system is 0, then what will happen to the center of mass? Center of mass, it will move with uniform velocity, constant velocity. It will neither change its direction nor it will change the magnitude. Alright. Now, some examples of motion of center of mass. Alright, whenever if you consider a projectile, right, you know projectile, it follows always a parabolic path, isn't it? Now suppose what you have done, a bomb is thrown and the bomb here. So if when the bomb before explosion, it is supposed to follow this trajectory path. Now suppose here the bomb exploded and different fragments are produced. Now these different fragments, alright, after the explosion of the bomb, that's why I put across, means it is exploded and it is divided into 4 parts. They will move in such a direction that the center of mass will follow the same trajectory. Alright, so in case of radioactive decay also the same thing happened. If you consider the radioactive substance before decay and after decay, as in times of radioactive decay there is no external force acting on the system, what will happen? The fragments that is produced due to the decay, they will move in such a manner that the velocity of the center of mass of the system, it remain constant, means it follow the same trajectory, it follow the same path. Alright, so these are the practical application of the concept of this velocity of the center of mass. Now momentum conservation, if we want to apply here, then how you can consider? Suppose there is a system of n particles. So what is the total momentum of the system? It will be the vector sum of the individual momentum of all the constituting particles. Alright. So one can write P is equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3 Pn. Again P1 one can write it as M1 V1, then P2 M2 V2, and Pn you can write it as Mn Vn. Again, if we apply our concept of the velocity of the center of mass, so what is the velocity of the center of mass? 1 by m, m1 v1 plus m2 v2, so on, isn't it? So you see, you can write P as, it is 1 by m is there, isn't it? So you can write it as m into velocity of the center of mass, because you see it is equal to, if you multiply m and 1 by m, then it will cancel and you will get this same formula as you have got in the first equation, isn't it? So one can write the total linear momentum of a system is equal to total mass multiplied by velocity of the center of mass. Again we know what is the external force acting on the system. External force acting on the system according to Newton's second law of motion, time rate of change of linear momentum. So time rate of change of linear momentum, how you can write mathematically? dp dt, alright, means time derivative of linear momentum. Now if you consider the conservation of linear momentum. Conservation of linear momentum, I hope you can remember in the last chapter I taught you, means when the external force acting on the system is 0, then total momentum remain constant. So you see, if external force acting on the system is 0, then dp dt is equal to 0. So dp dt 0 means P equal to constant. dp dt, what is the physical meaning? Physical meaning means the rate of change of the quantity is 0. So if there is no change in the quantity, if the quantity is constant, then only the rate of change of the quantity will be 0. So dp dt 0 means that P equal to constant. So this is the statement of conservation of linear momentum. We studied it already in the earlier chapter. Here we have just reapplied it in the case of the center of mass. So we studied already what is center of gravity. Alright. Now what are the basic differences between center of mass and center of gravity? center of mass is the point where we consider, we assume that total mass of the body is being concentrated, alright, whereas weight of the body is the point where we assume total weight of the body is being concentrated, alright. Then second point of difference is that we know mass of a body does not depend, mass of a body is constant, mass of a body does not depend on the position of the body, whereas weight of a body depends, weight is given by m into g. I hope you can remember the formula, W is equal to m into g. So weight of a body depends on acceleration due to gravity, and acceleration due to gravity depends where the body is situated. If the body is on the earth's surface, then the value of g, if you take the same body to certain height, certain higher altitude, then the value of g decreases. If you take the same body, then weight of the body will decrease. If you take the same body inside mine, means inside the earth, then what happens? The value of g decreases, so weight of the body will decrease. So weight of the body depends on the value of small g, acceleration due to gravity, and acceleration due to gravity depends on the position of the body. So whatever I said, I summarized here point wise. So what are the differences between center of mass and center of gravity? First point is the point at which entire mass of the body assumed to be concentrated, whereas center of gravity is the point at which entire weight of a body assumed to be concentrated. Then second point of difference, mass of a body remain constant and it is independent of the position, whereas weight of a body depends on small g. I have written within inverted comma because small g is acceleration due to gravity, and acceleration due to gravity depends on position of the body. So that's all about this chapter. This chapter is very small, so you please learn the derivation. You may not have to learn, but if you please learn all the formulae I wrote within the rectangles. Thank you girls.